Good morning, everyone. Fall has finally started and it came in with rainy, dreary, cold weather. So before we head to school this morning, let's start a pot of homemade chicken noodle soup. For today's recipe, you're going to need about 12 ounces of boneless, skinless chicken breast tenders, 1/2 medium onion chopped, 1 stalk of celery chopped, 1/2 carrot sliced, 1 tablespoon of Greek seasoning, 1½ teaspoons of garlic salt, 1½ teaspoons of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of ground white pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of coarse ground black pepper, 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, 1 teaspoon parsley flakes, 1 bay leaf, and 1 tablespoon better than bouillon paste, water, and salt to taste. Now for today's recipe, you want to get started with your vegetables first. You're going to chop about half of a white onion. These don't have to be tiny little pieces. Next, you'll want to chop 1 stalk of celery. Now, a very important thing to know about celery is that a lot of people, when they've had it in their refrigerator for a little while, they notice that it starts to get a little bit flexible and limp. That's okay. You can still cook with it. Probably not the best to put on a vegetable tray, but if it is a little bit limp, it's still okay to cook with it. You want to make sure that you pull the strings off the outside because there's better ways to get fiber than chewing on a mouthful of celery string. And a lot of people will leave the celery out because they go, well, I don't like celery. But it's not necessarily a texture that you're going to really notice that much in the soup when it's all done, but it's a flavor that it adds, and it helps to make the broth a much more rich, luscious broth. And then for my family, we like carrots. They're not our favorite thing in soups unless it's a vegetable beef soup. So I'm just going to really thinly slice. This is about 1/2 of a regular carrot. You can do more or less if you like, but you just need it to, again, help with that broth a little bit. And it gives you a little bit of extra texture when you're done. And now that I've got all my veggies chopped, we're going to do a quick saute, and then we're going to get our soup ready to go. Now the chicken that I'm using today is boneless, skinless chicken breast tenders. If you have chicken thighs, these are even better. It adds a little bit more flavor because the thighs do have that fat content that the chicken breast just doesn't have. And these you can actually chop up while they're still frozen. These have been in a water bath for a little while. And I'm just going to cut them into not huge, but not teensy tiny little chunks. And it's just going to allow them to cook very evenly and to absorb the flavor of the broth as it's cooking. If you get to any little sinew or tendons, just cut those off. Nobody wants a bite of that in their chicken noodle soup. So we're just going to cut these up and add them to our soup. Okay, so again today we're going to use our trusty Cuisinart crock pot, and I'm going to put a tablespoon of butter in there and let that warm up. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just lightly saute our carrots, our celery, and our onion. They are going to be extremely soft after they cook all day, but it kind of helps to release those oils if you go ahead and just do a really quick saute. So in goes our carrots, our celery, and our onions. And we're only going to saute those just enough to start getting them heated up and start letting those oils let loose. So we're probably going to saute these for about a minute or two. Okay, so our mirepoix, our carrots, celery, and onions have been sauteing for just a minute. They're just starting to get soft. So we're going to go ahead and add in the rest of our ingredients. Now, the first thing that we add is about a tablespoon of Greek seasoning. Sounds odd for chicken noodle soup, but it's wonderful. Then we're going to use 1½ teaspoons of garlic salt. Now, we're not going to add any just regular granulated salt until the very end. You don't want to get this too salty from the beginning. Next is 1½ teaspoons of onion powder. Next, we have a 1/4 teaspoon of white pepper and a 1/2 teaspoon of coarse ground black pepper. You want to take it easy on the white pepper because it can get powerful very quickly. Next, we have a 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper flake. Just gives it a little punch. Then we have a teaspoon of parsley. One bay leaf because we are doing poultry. And then here is my secret. This is 1 tablespoon of a product called Better Than Bouillon. And Better Than Bouillon, if you do not have time to make your own stock from scratch, it gives you that full flavor that you would get if you had had time to make a full broth. And I'm just going to put that in. And then we're going to do 4 cups of water. Now, I did warm this up in the microwave for about 2 minutes, so it's not cold. And you just kind of want to let this get all mixed together and stir it in. And the hard part is over. After you get everything mixed in well, you want to go ahead and add the chicken that you chopped up earlier. I use about 4 tenders, which if you're measuring by weight, that's about 12 ounces of chicken. And we're just going to let this get nice and warm. We're going to put our lid on. We're going to knock this down to low. And we're going to let it cook all day while I'm at school. So we're home from school and our soup has been cooking in the crock pot all day long. Now when you open it up, it's going to look very liquid. Of course, all of your heavy particles will have settled down to the bottom. You just want to give it a really good stir. Smells wonderful. The chicken is tender, the carrots are tender, and it's just well blended. So it's noodle time. And for my family, what we have decided that we like best is actually egg noodles. So you can use egg noodles, you can use linguine, whatever your favorite noodle is. But egg noodles hold up really well, even if you're going to save it for the next day. It reheats really well. And what I have here is about 6 ounces or about 4 cups of egg noodles. And I'm just going to add those right in there. Now, noodles need liquid, and what you want to do is just add enough hot water. Again, I've warmed this in the microwave for about 2.5 minutes so that it's not going to decrease the temperature inside my crock pot. And I'm going to just add enough extra water really to cover the noodles up, because we like a nice thick broth in our soup, but we do want our noodles to be tender. Now, if you're not in a hurry, all that you have to do is just stick your lid back on here and let them go for another hour just on low. We kind of like to eat an early dinner, so I'm actually just going to bump my heat up, and I'm going to let these boil for about 5 minutes and then drop it back down to low and let them cook for a total of about 15 minutes, and then our soup will be ready. Okay, our noodles have been cooking and they are starting to get soft. This is the point where you actually want to go ahead and taste your broth We did not add any extra salt other than the garlic salt that we did earlier. And you just really need to taste it. You know your family. Salt and pepper is always something that I do to taste. And you just want to taste your broth. Pretty good, but it does need a little bit of salt. Salt is something that, especially with soups, I prefer to do at the end, because once you put it in there, you can't take it out. And sometimes as flavors develop while you're cooking, you don't have as much need for salt at the end as you think you may have at the beginning. So our soup is ready. Let's have dinner. Now this soup recipe, because it does have red pepper flake in it, is a little bit spicy. If you're not a fan of a little bit of heat, either reduce the amount of red pepper flake or just leave it out. You will still have a very luscious, delicious soup. This soup is fantastic all by itself, and even more wonderful when you pair it with your favorite sandwich or grilled cheese. It is also one of the soups that reheats extremely well, and the flavor is even better on that second day. If you like these recipes and you would like them to continue, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.